Hey everybody, Professor Mike here today to talk to you about the magic of the water cycle before I show you a cool magic trick and teach you some hands-on science that you can do at home. Now the water cycle is a cycle, so there's no real starting point, but we're going to start by talking about this cloud. Now this cloud we're going to call nimbus. Now it's not a bad name, it just means the cloud's precipitating or raining, snowing, sleeting, or hailing. That precipitation comes out of the cloud and it collects. Our second stage, collection. It collects in rivers and lakes and streams and oceans and bays, or maybe in a puddle that you happen to step in. But the water will collect. After collection, that water becomes water vapor and goes back up into the atmosphere. And we call that evaporation. And evaporation is the third phase. Finally, before condensation, where the water goes back to a liquid, back to our cloud, and starts again. So we have precipitation, collection, evaporation, condensation, and finally, right back to precipitation. Because precipitation and this water cycle will never end. Now, how does that keep on filling? Now we are going to make a small model of the water cycle with some household materials. What's going to happen is you're going to see the collection, the evaporation, the condensation, and the precipitation all happen within our little model. The first thing you need to do is take about 2 cups of water, warm water preferably, and pour it into the bowl. Once I've done that, I'm going to take this smaller empty bowl and put it right there in the middle. So you have an empty small bowl surrounded by water. Lastly, I'm going to take about 2 teaspoons of salt, which isn't a lot, but you can definitely measure with your mom and dad, and put it around the outside. And that's going to show us that the salt is still there when the water collects in the bowl. And finally, to make sure we seal all of this in, we're going to take some saran wrap or cling wrap and make sure it is on there nice and tight. And you want a little bit of a divot in the middle right above that bowl. And what you're going to see happen is over time, the more indented there, the better. Over time, I'm going to take this juggling ball and place it right there on top to keep it low. Over time, that water will evaporate, condensate here on our saran wrap, and then fall to the middle where the indentation is and drip into that center bowl. And that's going to be all the phases of the water cycle. Sun. One great thing you can do is put one in the sun and one in the shade and see the difference in how that water evaporates. Because we know that the sun has a big effect on the water cycle. Look at a puddle on a cloudy day versus a puddle on a sunny day. Today we're going to do a trick based on the classic 3-card Monte, only we're going to do it with cups. So we call it 3-cup Monte, and it takes 3 cups and just a little bit of water. Now we take that water, and we know water is a liquid, so we can get poured from cup to cup. And that doesn't change anything as the water goes from cup to cup. Now your job is to keep your eye on that liquid as I move the cups around. And we can look and say, is it in cup number 1? No, the water is gone. Is it in cup number 2? The water is gone. Is it in cup number 3? Ladies and gentlemen, we call that evaporation. Thank you. So in order to perform 3-cup Monte, you need a couple of supplies. First, you need 3 cups that are somewhat similar. And the actual secret to the trick is in this cup here, and that's this cut up sponge. And we're going to get to that in a moment. But what you want to make sure of is that your cups are fairly opaque. So there's no way that someone can see something hidden in the bottom of the cup. These plastic or paper cups sometimes have shadows when things are in the bottom, so I would avoid using those. If you can find something that's a little sturdier, if your mom will let you, use those. Once you have that, you're going to find a sponge. The thicker the sponge, the better it is. This is kind of a kitchen sponge, so it's not perfect for this. If you find one that's more for crafts or painting, they come a little bit thicker and you can hold a lot more water in them. So you'll see when I did the trick, I didn't use a lot of water, but you can test to see how much water you can actually hold on your sponge. You're going to place the sponge on underneath that cup and just give it a quick trace. Once you've done that, you're going to cut that out. Now, through the magic of television, we already have one cut out. Once you've done that, that's really all you need. A little bit of glue does help keep this thing down on the bottom. You can use glue. Elmer's glue works. Hot glue. If you don't want to glue it, I would say before you do any of this, make sure you talk to your parents about the glue and the scissors, all kind of stuff that you need to work with your mom and dad about. Once you do that, you place that in there like so, and you are ready to begin. You can do this trick just as I did it, having someone find it, or you could just vanish water and call it evaporation. Thanks for joining me today as we talked about the water cycle. And just remember, no matter what's going on, the water cycle is always working, whether it's raining or a bright and sunny day. Thanks, and never stop learning.